We will now move on to the President's report. Dr. Suddick.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I've got lots of good news to share. So CLC is now listed as one of the top 5 LGBTQ-friendly community colleges by Campus Pride, which is the leading organization working to create safe college environments for LGBTQ students. I want to thank Shanti Chu, the faculty coordinator of the LGBTQ+ Resource Center, and the students who led that endeavor. Also, thank you to our college community whose collective efforts ensure CLC is a welcoming place for all. Congratulations to Teresa Aguinaldo, the Dean of Student Life. I had the opportunity to see her receive the Education Award from the YWCA Lake County at their Y Stand, the 40th Annual Women of Achievement Leadership Luncheon last week. So we were represented well at the event with faculty, staff, and students there, and some members of our Diversity Council to cheer Teresa and other recipients on. So Teresa's in the audience if you want to acknowledge her. Also, great work to Ann O'Connell and CLC's PR marketing team. They earned a 2018 Medallion Award. I see Ann sitting here. From the National Council for Marketing and Public Relations. This is an award given for CLC's strategic PR plan for supply chain management in the category of successful recruitment or a marketing program. So thank you to that team, which included the Business and Social Sciences Division, faculty members, Lori Oriati and Pam Johnson for their creative and successful collaboration. Good work, team.
Congratulations.
Just a reminder, we have our Science and Engineering Building open house tomorrow, right? From 4 to 6 p.m. We're looking forward to welcoming legislators, members of the Capital Development Board from the state. Leggett Architects will be there, as well as CLC trustees, staff, faculty, and students. And many of those guests played a very important part in seeing that building come to fruition, so it will be great fun. October is Manufacturing Month, and we're celebrating that here at CLC. So you have a flyer at your place to outline the various events that we have going on. We have a team of people working extremely hard to engage our manufacturing partners who make up a big chunk of our economy here in Lake County. Also at your place you have a sustainability plan. This plan is in motion, but we do want to have the Board of Trustees formally adopt this plan at some point. But since you are just receiving it today, we will bring that back in October. We thought we'd give you an opportunity to review it. We will bring that plan back for adoption on the board agenda in October. I, as well as some others from the team, will attend the Illinois Equity and Attainment Initiative launch. We've talked about this in the past, but this is a group of 24 colleges and universities committed to increasing equity in higher education. And I have been officially approved and am now a member of the United Way Board. And so want you to know I'm connecting in the community. Met with the South Lake Advisory Committee last week, and we'll meet with the Lakeshore Advisory Committee tomorrow. And we are having 2 strategic planning community input sessions in October. October 4th will be the manufacturing industry sector. We will have many employers here on campus to engage in a planning session with us. And on October 22nd, we will do a session with CLC students. So looking forward to that. We have 2 reports for you, and we're going to, with your permission, flip the order of those. So the first one we're going to start out with is a presentation. I thought it was important the Board of Trustees have the opportunity to hear information that we were invited to present to Governor Rauner's Youth Council a few weeks ago on the Transitional Map pilot, which is great work that's happening here. So Allie and Sarah Seshke are going to take us through that.
Thank you. So I will play the role of ICCB and ISB in this presentation. We were very proud to be asked to highlight our program, and Sarah Sashku, along with our math faculty, have been great champions. So we'll share a little bit of this work with you this evening. And to set the stage, really the origins of this transitional math effort are grounded in a legislation called the Post-Secondary and Workforce Readiness Act. There are 4 major components to this act, all kind of grounded in secondary education and work by the Illinois State Board of Education. But CLC is connected in some way to each of these components. And really, the most prominent work we've been doing is around transitional coursework, which is why we were invited to be represented on the governor's cabinet meeting. So what is transitional math? Well, this is a little visual to kind of represent the major components. This establishes a partnership between CLC as the community college and the high school in a way where we can offer a 4th-year math class to students that are not projected to be college ready at the time that they graduate high school. So the effort is put forward that students would successfully complete a transitional math class in one of 3 math pathways, and then they're automatically granted placement into the college level credit math course in that same pathway when they enter the community college. What this does is it saves students time, it saves them money. It also builds their confidence by avoiding math placement tests and avoiding the developmental education coursework here at the community college. So it's embedded within the high school experience to really accelerate their time to completion. It opens up prerequisite courses much earlier in their college career, and again, accelerates their time to their degree. So, a little bit of data that was shared by the state, and we'd like to highlight, CLC's success rate in the initial pilot year of this project, and the amount of savings that the students who participated successfully are able to gain access to college level credit math coursework now when they come to CLC earlier, and they're able to save that money that they otherwise would have spent in a developmental course. So we were invited to speak not just solo, but we brought our high school partner with and had Grant High School at the table with us. It really helps exemplify the partnership that we have, and also supports the spirit of the legislation, which is where the community college and the high school are acting in complete partnership to align curriculum and really accelerate the math readiness in our communities. So what we did was we set the stage with a little bit of institutional knowledge about who Grant and CLC are as institutions of education. It also allowed us the opportunity to highlight our high school alliance. And so Dr. Christy Sefcik, the superintendent of Grant's district, is one of our 2 co-chairs of the high school alliance this year. And so we were able to talk about our formal work in declaring the alliance all the way up to the launch of the Transitional Math Partnership. So at that stage, I'm going to transition to Sarah to let you know about the results of the pilot.
Yeah, can you go back, Ellie?
Oh,
Just
sure.
a question I had.
Sure.
To the beginning. I just want to make sure I understand.
This one?
Yeah, so where does the 4th year of math happen?
In the high school.
So they're not going to be required to take 4 years of math?
Not required. So this is still an optional pathway for students in their 4th year, but it's intended to fill that gap that we know is such a critical issue when they skip the senior year.
Yeah, and I've advocated 4-year math in high school all along. I agree with that. Where's the discrepancy in what they're not going to be able to do in 4 years? Where's that discussion? They're going to take 4 years of math, something's going to have to be replaced. Or is it in addition to?
Well, I don't know, can we answer that? It's really going to be contextualized for the individual student and the school. So in the prior to transitional math as an option, the high schools did not have a 4th year class that aligned with us in this way. So this is intended to fill that gap. You're right. If students are in a credit recovery mode or another scenario, they may have that option. However, Sarah can speak to the type of student that we're filling the need for in her slides as well. She's got some context for that.
Okay, so could this be in the summer, so the student could take this 4th year math in the summer? And is it a dual credit?
It's not a dual credit. I'm going to let Sarah speak. She's such an expert on this. No, I'm going to let her jump in here,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So to your question about what happens if they're in this class, what class are they missing out on? What we're hearing a lot from our high schools is that they really are encouraging all students to take 4 years of math. So they likely would be taking something else. But what we're also hearing is that a number of high schools had a need for a class like a transitional math class because they had a population of students that they did not feel were being well served in the existing math curriculum. So the timing of transitional math was actually really nice because I'll talk about in a minute. Each fall, Donna Carlson, who's our CLC math liaison to high schools, and I go out and meet with high schools so that we can talk to their math departments about sort of what's new, what are their needs. We can share our updates from CLC with them, and we can talk about ways to collaborate. So as we were learning about the legislation, we were also hearing from high schools that there may be a need for a class like this because they felt like they were putting students in classes that weren't meeting their needs and didn't have a class that would meet their needs. So for many of our pilot high schools, it's actually filling a need for them, and it's giving students a more meaningful experience than what high schools felt they were previously providing.
And I would agree with that completely. I just don't know where and how it's going to happen. And I'll just leave you with this question. Why can't it be a dual credit?
Because the state won't really allow it. Dual credit is reserved for credit-bearing classes, and these are more aligned to our developmental classes, which don't carry any credit.
Okay.
The state has gone back and forth on whether it would be transcripted. If it was transcripted, it would be more similar to dual credit because it would be on the transcript but still not carrying credit. However, we didn't want, if students weren't successful, we wanted this to be a really good opportunity for students. So we didn't want it to be on their transcript if they weren't successful, if we could give them the benefit of placement without having it on the transcript.
Okay, so this would have replaced the remedial math that they would normally take here.
Exactly, yes.
And having been a part of that SOUPS group in 2015, that was our biggest concern, as you well remember, is having a class that was essentially demotivating for our students. We strongly believe that the college placement test and that particular class didn't meet everyone's needs, and so we were working on creative possibilities for kids that would serve both the college and the high school population, and I couldn't be more excited to see it's actually happening now. It's the right thing to do for kids, because there's no reason that high school graduates can't come to CLC prepared and ready to learn at a college level at CLC. We just needed to change some of the metrics and up the expectations for that particular group of kids, which you guys have done nicely. So that's pretty exciting.
So I've covered a little bit of this. I'm going to go out of order a bit, but Donna Carlson, like I said, she's been in the liaison role since it was created 10 years ago. So she had built strong relationships with high school math faculty, and that really allowed us to help explore transitional math pretty quickly. Eric Tauberry is the divisional administrator for math at Grant High School, so he co-presented some of the reasons that we were interested in transitional math. One of the reasons is because it does provide a meaningful fourth-year option for students. It aligned really well to our Take 4 Math campaign, which we've had out for a couple of years in partnership with our high schools to encourage that fourth year of math. It's also really nice because the high school instructors can teach the class, so they don't have to worry about qualifications to teach CLC coursework. As long as they're qualified to teach high school math, they can teach this class to their students. It's also a different class, so it doesn't follow the traditional algebra sequence that most high school students are used to. It's giving students a different experience with math content, which has been really successful. Of course, it's saving students time and money, which is a huge plus both for CLC and our partner high schools. And part of our meetings with the high schools each fall, we're looking at data. And so it's obvious that there's a critical need to increase the number of students graduating high school and coming to CLC prepared for college level work. So as we're looking at the data, we were having a lot of conversations about ways we needed to partner differently to address this need in our community. The state does have 3 pathways for transitional math, and I like to think of it as we need to know the student's end goal. So at the top of this chart, you see examples of professions that are aligned to each pathway. If we know what students want to do as a profession, we know which credit level math class they're going to need at CLC, and then we're able to partner with the high schools to offer the appropriate transitional math class that will allow them to place into the credit level class that they'll need here at CLC. Our pilot is currently just this middle pathway, the transition to quantitative literacy and statistics. This was a good fit for us because this is the area that we were hearing from high schools where there was a need, but we also were having a lot of success with our preparatory mathematics for general education developmental course, which we felt would be a really good fit for high schools. So we had a strong curriculum we were able to share with our high schools for the transitional math pilot. We do have interest in the transition to technical math, and so we're looking at implementing that with at least one partner high school next year. Eric then shared the experience of Grant's teacher, Tom Duffy, and he of course talked about saving time and money and increasing college readiness, but a lot of what he talked about had to do with the experience that students had in the class. Students were able to interact with the math content in ways that were really meaningful and relevant to them. It is a very project-based class, and students are working on things like dosing of medication, things that they're going to likely experience in future careers. So they got a lot of feedback that students were enjoying math in ways they hadn't before, and that they were being successful with a population of students that had really struggled in math. They also saw a lot of, like Allie talked about, increased confidence for students and increased confidence in their ability to transition into college and to take credit level math classes. And then this highlights our success rate again. Our overall success rate was at 59%, which is actually the exact same as our success rate in that math course at the college last spring. So it's interesting that that aligns. It's also toward the higher end of the success rates for transitional math in the state of Illinois. And we do have a transitional math quiz for you on this PowerPoint slide. If you can find the error in the calculation. So the grant success rate is 55% and not 62%. We would obviously like to, like I said, 59% is pretty in line with what we see at CLC and what we're seeing around the state. We'd love to increase that number. We'd also like to increase the number of students that we're serving through transitional math. So we piloted last year with 2 high schools, Grant and Zion Benton. This year we've expanded to Waukegan and Wakanda. And then in October, we've invited all of the Lake County high schools to send a team to a summit that we're hosting where the director of transitional math for the state of Illinois is going to come in and work with high school teams to develop transitional coursework. The state goal, which is also our goal, is that all of our high schools will have at least one transitional math course within the next 5 years. So we're hoping that the summit is the first step toward that. The other thing is English is not to be outdone. So I've been working with Kathy Kusiak, who is our English liaison to high schools. We are already talking about piloting transitional English in 2 high schools as early as next year. So we are excited about that. And then just at the cabinet meeting, we did provide contact information.
Wonderful. Absolute great progress. That's exciting. Great for kids.
It is really a result of the relationships that Sarah and Donna Carlson have forged with our high schools. That's the reason we're out in front of this in many ways compared to our state partners. So proud of the work they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.